You don't get to walk into your local library and pick up a book and say, this is how you do this. So we've got to make this up as we go along.
What is up? What's up? Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Brandstetter, founder and podcast producer at Max Podcasting. And you can email me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. This is episode 21.7, if you remove the decimal. I'm getting so intricate with these. And today's guest is Paul McCarthy. You heard that right, Paul McCarthy. Paul is the founder and CEO of Snapfix, one of my favorite company names of all time, but a super cool company that is building the maintenance platform for the world. Snapfix helps properties, teams, buildings communicate with each other and solve problems and solve maintenance issues and building issues through the use of things as simple as photos and traffic lights. That's traffic light imagery and symbols. It's an absolutely awesome platform, and it's all about simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. That's what we talk about with Paul, which rhymes with all. And in addition, we get into how to give your team that autonomy needed to help your business explode with growth, and a little bit about Paul's background growing up on a farm in Ireland with about 487 siblings. It is Paul Wall McCarthy. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Paul McCarthy of Snapfix, and so this is sure to be one of the snappiest, fixiest, make up your own adjective or adverbs, adjectives, interviews you'll ever hear. Paul joining us from sunny Dublin, as you said. Thanks so much for joining, Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm absolutely fantastic, Max, and delighted to be here and to be chatting to somebody in New York, my own hometown, for 10 years.
That is so cool. So yeah, born and raised in Ireland, which we'll talk about, but spent a decade in New York, and I know you lived in the East Village. What's your favorite memory from living in that part of town?
I think it was just a mix of the community. The East Village was evolving at the time, and it was just a fantastic place. Great cafes. It's got to be the cafes, the restaurants, the nightclubs. It was absolutely a wonderful place to live at the time.
Oh yeah,
a nice edge to the neighborhood.
Absolutely, yeah. I used to live in Murray Hill, so I guess right next door to East Village, and especially on the weekends, Friday, Saturday night, my friends and I, oftentimes we'd start at my apartment or my buddy's apartment nearby, have some drinks before going out, and then sure enough, we'd take a cab or take an Uber downtown and go to the East Village bars or out in the Lower East Side. There's just so much to do there. Yeah, it's really cool that you live there. Speaking of village, I want to talk about villages in Ireland as well. So I heard that you actually grew up in a farm in Ireland.
That's right, Max. I actually grew up in a farm out in the country in Ireland, and I'm one of 12 kids. So we joked growing up, we were a soccer team and a substitute.
Oh my God, that's a great line. Wow. It makes me think of so my grandpa Fred, who passed away recently, he grew up on a farm, and he was one of 10 children. And fun fact, he actually, the love of his life, my grandma Barb, he was the youngest of 10 siblings, and she was the oldest of 10 siblings. So talk about a range of cousins there. But anyway, that's a little aside. So you grew up on a farm with a full football team and a substitute. Growing up in that farm environment, what did that teach you about life and business? Kind of, what lessons can you trace back to that?
Great question, Max. I think one of the key lessons from growing up on a farm is there's always something to be done. 7 days a week, didn't matter if it was Christmas Day or any other day of the year. There were always, cattle to be fed. There was always fences to be mended. There was always crops to be sown or harvested or whatever. There was always something going on, and there was not a lot of downtime, to be perfectly honest. The advantage of it was, you got kind of the entrepreneurial bug. We were always doing things, buying and selling things, trading things, going to horse fairs, buying and selling horses, buying and selling, stock or produce, as you call it, from the farm itself. Buying and selling farms, and then developing businesses out of that, including a warehousing business and a property development business. So it was a great foundation of teamwork, of innovation, of survival in many cases, and just trying to get things done all the time.
This is a two-parter. Sorry, because I hate two-part questions, but I have to ask. What was your favorite and least favorite task to do around the farm?
When I had a motorcycle, the favorite one was rounding up the cattle. So that was cool. So it was like, I was actually barred from getting a motorcycle, and I just arrived home with one at the age of 16. And I had it, and I had paid for it, and I had the helmet and everything like that. So using it on the farm was kind of the quick way in to have it accepted in the house. The least favorite one would have been doing stuff that was highly inefficient. Even as a young kid, I hated wasting time. So very often we'd have some work to do, and you could have got a machine for it, and it would have done it in an hour. No, we had to do it manually, and it would have taken 6 of us a week to do it. And so because there was a lot of manpower and woman power available on the farm, we probably didn't do a lot of things very efficiently, and that used to drive me nuts.
Well, that is some incredible foreshadowing to your business, which we'll get to in a minute. But the image of herding cattle with a motorcycle in the Irish countryside is like so awesome. That sounds like something out of a movie. That's so wonderful. Like, I would love to do that. That should be like an amazing excursion or some sort of travel thing that you can do is drive around a motorcycle on a farm. Like that's so cool. So your life is a movie, basically, is what I'm saying. But the other aspect that's fascinating about your background, the whole roster of your football/soccer team. So 12 of you. That is a heck of a busy house or busy farm. So what did you learn from having so many siblings and so many people under that same roof growing up?
You learn how to share pretty quick, and you learn how to protect you learn how to protect your lunch and dinner with your life, or it could be taken from you. No, I'm joking about that part of it. I never got beaten up as a kid, which was always kind of a bonus, and we were never robbed or anything like that. No one would ever come near our house. You wouldn't get away with it. No, being more seriously, I think the spirit of teamwork was engendered into us very, 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 very early. Very often we were using a lot of heavy machinery and heavy equipment and really dangerous equipment. So you had your family lives in the palm of your hands on a regular basis. They could be up at a height, and you could have a tractor with a front loader on it, and you could have them 20, 25 feet in the air. You had to be super careful around health and safety. And this is when health and safety wasn't a thing, but you knew that you just had to be super careful at all times.
You mentioned inefficiency and just groaning on things that are inefficient growing up. And you look to your business now, Snapfix, and I think it's all about efficiency. So no question that you have kind of deep-rooted passion in that area and making things efficient, making things simple. So let's get to Snapfix, which is an awesome name, by the way. I think, when people are picking a name for their business, are often, they want to use like vivid verbs or just words that are really quick and intuitive and have strong meaning behind it. Snapfix, I mean, both of those words are incredibly visual and fun to say. So kudos to you on picking those 2 syllables and words there. But Snapfix, so it's kind of in the hospitality or maintenance space. How did you get into this space that you ultimately started a business around in the first place?
Yeah, so my background to date is over 25 years in computer software development. I graduated with a computer science degree back in the day. In parallel with that, as I'd mentioned, I've always been involved in managing and maintaining properties. So about 5 years ago, I joke with people that I had about 50 Post-it notes stuck to my face with requests coming in from tenants and guests and residents in offices to have items addressed, and I was trying to communicate those to contractors, and I was stuck in the middle. And the common denominator, Max, was WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is the most wonderful tool for chat and for just chatting and communicating. It's not very good for, and it just was never built or fit for purpose for getting things done from a kind of a project or a task management perspective. So I set myself the mission to create the simplest maintenance platform on the planet by using photos as a means of communication, and identified the traffic light as the simplest means of collaboration. The traffic light is the universal symbol of teamwork. It doesn't matter what country you go to and you drive to a junction, everybody uses traffic lights. So in a very lofty, futuristic sense, we've created a language for people to be able to communicate using photos and collaborate using traffic lights without the use of any text at all. But of course, you can use text in Snapfix.
And when did you realize the tension there of WhatsApp is awesome, it's it's literally globally used, it's very effective, but when did you realize it wasn't so efficient for these maintenance requests and property management tasks?
Very quickly, because using WhatsApp, I just spend my days scrolling up and down trying to figure out what requests were new, what were in progress, and what were done, and I just literally just wanted to answer those three things. And that's the beauty of the simple three traffic light colors. Red means something needs to be done, yellow is in progress, and green is done. And for most people, that's all they ever need to know.
It is. And again, it likens back to the name, like simple and quick and easy. Traffic light is the same sort of thing. It's got beautiful imagery and it's very, very quick to internalize whether something, needs work or is good to go or is in between. In terms of Snapfix, what was involved on the tech side of actually, developing this platform?
Well, one of the greatest fortunes I've had to date was meeting my CTO. I met maybe about 10 companies before meeting Cathal Greeny, and when I was explaining to him what I was trying to build, he literally kind of started taking the sentences out of my mouth, and he carried on talking about it, because we're talking about a global distributed cloud-based architecture that synchronizes instantly between Apple and Android and websites and all of this stuff. And he just got it right away. And we hit it off within about 45 seconds of meeting for the first time. And it's been absolutely fantastic since. The second part of that equation would be the design of the system. And I often use the analogy of Microsoft Word. No, I've nothing against Microsoft, but we all pay for 100% of Microsoft Word and we use 1% of it. And I was absolutely dedicated and focused on only working on the 1% solution. And that's what Snapfix is.
The tech part of it is super cool, but the tech for the layman, for the average person, can be totally, like above your head. And like, I'm somebody that knows tech pretty well now, but I still I don't know much about the coding side of things or software development or, even like IT and troubleshooting, things like that. So it becomes so much more important, for the average consumer to have that simplicity. And simplicity is an area that I've heard you talk about time and time again of, this needs to be simple, and we've created a simple solution to do these things. Even though the tech can get complicated on the back end of that, or front end, I don't even know what's the right way to say that. But on the back end, how do you and the development team keep that emphasis on simplicity for the end consumer?
A couple of key areas there. The first thing is we start with no. We start with there isn't going to be another feature in Snapfix. So every new feature that we do allow in has to pass through a whole series of gates. And we have two rules for it. It has to be the simplest possible solution on the planet for that feature, and it has to be universal so that everybody will be able to use it. So we maintain a relentless focus on that. And the second thing we do, Max, is I've instructed our product designer, who's a wonderful designer, to remove 10% of Snapfix every year, so we can see by the data, by our own data analytics, what people aren't using. And sometimes we get a couple of things wrong. We take it away, because then you're not carrying forward the cost and effort of maintaining that code going forward when no one really wants it. And sometimes it's just down to trying a different type of feature rather than the feature that was there and not being used, for example.
I love that. It's the trim the fat, as people say. How can you be more efficient? How can you cut out that aspect? And so you keep a consistent focus every single year to be more efficient there. That's awesome. Of the features that are still remaining, there's probably one feature left. No, I'm just kidding. No, of the features that are still remaining, what are you seeing, in these first few years in business of being the most commonly used features, across the network of Snapfix?
A few different sectors use Snapfix. Okay, you've got hospitality, facilities management, construction, engineering, and the like. In construction, they're using it quite a bit for punch lists. They want a high volume of activity. So I take a picture of this, it goes to the electrician. I take a picture of that, it goes to the plumber. I take a picture of that, something else, it goes to the carpenter. They've started using video a lot more, especially when they're down to the end of the construction phase and there's an issue like maybe a leaking pipe or something like that. Well, a video within Snapfix communicates that very, very effectively. The other one is people don't want to use apps. It's a hassle to download another app. So what we allow people to do is to use a QR code. So every QR, and I believe that every building should have a QR code, so that anybody could just point their smartphone camera at the QR code and they can contribute to your Snapfix. So one of the things we want to enable is to allow people to leverage the eyes and ears of everybody in a building to help make it the best it can be at all times. Somebody might spot a flickering light. Well, they should be able to report that instantly. We shouldn't have to wait an hour for your maintenance guy to spot it. And it should be easy to report it. And then going into the future, you should be able to use Slack or WhatsApp or email or whatever user interface you want to be able to communicate into Snapfix. So we do not want to prescribe people to use our app. They should be open to use whatever they wish.
Yeah, I think it goes back to simplicity, but ease of use is so huge, especially when you're in the business of adding more consumers and partners to actually use this, because it can be so helpful. You mentioned several different industries that you're in. I guess on the marketing or distribution side, how have you been able to get Snapfix in front of these different vendors and industries in order for them to actually start using this?
Well, I guess from day one, when I was bootstrapping it, I showed it to a number of industries. I showed it to hotels, I showed it to engineering companies, facilities management companies, property managers, and hotels really took to it in the early days. So hotels operate 24/7. They have a large audience of multilingual staff, and they demand the highest quality. And when I came across the hotel sector, I really gravitated to it because it would stress test the hell out of Snapfix. Because as you can imagine, people check out of hotel rooms, every 24 hours. They might check out of an apartment building every 6 months or 12 months. So we'd identified the most intensive sector that's really, really hard on buildings. And that was a wonderful, absolutely wonderful sector to start with. We kicked off officially in September 2019. And then 6 months later, of course, COVID came along and punched us all in the face. So all of our hospitality customers were struggling at the time. And at that point in time, we broadened out to office buildings, apartment buildings, mines in Africa, engineering companies, construction companies. And we were very fortunate that we had architected and designed a solution for the wider sector when COVID hit.
I've always thought that hotels is just a really fun space to be in. And it's an industry where obviously so much of the time people are traveling, like they're on vacation, or maybe they're traveling for something for work, where they're, more often than not, they're in a different city. They're, it's an experience or maybe an adventure that they're on. So there's just kind of like that energy there with hotels. And you're with Snapfix, you're kind of like in the behind the scenes of like what makes what makes the customer service great, or what makes their hospitality so hospitable. But so it's a really neat space to be in. I know that you kind of started the business, with hotels and other businesses in Ireland, and are now expanding to Florida and different countries as well. Not that Florida's a country, but you know what I mean. What's been involved in expanding internationally outside of Ireland with Snapfix?
Well, as I mentioned, Max, when COVID hit, we had to go wide and we had to go internationally. So we were selling B2B, which is bedroom to bedroom, because our customers were in their bedroom and we were in our bedroom selling to them. We went wide at that time using a combination of social media and email marketing. And we were very, very lucky to meet some amazing customers during that time who just were amazed at the simplicity of it. To find somebody who was as nutty and crazy as myself, who was just obsessed with simplicity, and they all came back saying, "We've been looking for something like this. We don't want 1,000 features, and we're delighted that we met you." And the spreading of we using word of mouth after that has helped us grow as well. We're on 5 continents now, which is fantastic. So I keep telling the team, who do you know in the Antarctic and who do you know in the Arctic? We got to get the last 2 continents.
Yeah, exactly. Those might be a bit. I know at the time of the year of recording, by you and by me, it's not the warmest, but I'm sure it's a heck of a lot warmer than it is in Antarctica. So that might be a whole new endeavor.
Even if we have to mail a phone to each location and get somebody Snapfix, we're gonna get them in the next year or 2.
So looking back on these last few years of growth and going from bootstrapping to, I know you've since raised funding, and obviously, the 5 continents you mentioned, like the business has grown a ton. What has been some key decisions that you've made or key steps that you've made that have really been inflection points in the growth of Snapfix?
Really, really good question. On day one, I think it's deciding to build an exceptional team. When you interview people and you meet some people, you can meet some people that are, better than others. So when I say better than others, I don't mean twice as good or 3 times as good. I mean 50 times better. And we've been very, very focused over the last couple of years to build a really, really hot team, kind of an A team. And everyone in Snapfix today, and we're a small company, we're less than 30 people, but everybody in the company now takes ownership of their own role. They're really, really good at what they do. They challenge me, they challenge the management team, they challenge the rest of the team to improve Snapfix in their area. And that's wonderful to see. So I can't say enough about the importance of team on day one. It's so important. We're married to each other for the next X number of years. And it's so important to work with people that you like and to give them the autonomy to run with their side of the business too, and let them run through walls, let them make mistakes. We have a no blame culture in Snapfix. As I tell everybody, I make 10 times more mistakes than everybody else. So stop worrying about it. Just if we're not making mistakes, we're not moving fast enough. And that's it. We just give people autonomy. They can make their impact on Snapfix as we make an impact on the world.
How do you instill that culture of, hey, it's okay to make mistakes to your team?
I think everyone on the team knows me at this stage for being fiercely impatient. So I was going to change.
I'm so sorry, by the way. You've been incredibly patient dealing with me through the course of this.
I've been thinking of changing my title to CIO, Chief Impatience Officer.
I like that.
But I enjoy it. It's, when we hit a milestone, we do celebrate it. But I honestly say, guys, we could have been there 3 months ago or 6 months ago, and we can't. I refuse to use the excuse of COVID or anything else like that. And I think people enjoy the autonomy is the first thing, but they enjoy the focus on simplicity. We're building something special here. Like, we're building the next Twitter or WhatsApp. We're building $1 billion business here. And the team that we have around the table at the moment globally are really, really committed to that. And we remind them that we're trying to do something that no one's done before. We're trying to build the maintenance platform for the world. You don't get to walk into your local library and pick up a book and say, this is how you do this. So we've got to make this up as we go along. And let's not sweat the mistakes. And sometimes you have to get used to accepting that, when you make a plan and we have 10 items in the plan, well, one item is a mistake. Just plan to make the mistake and let it blow up and just move on.
One place to move on to after your next mistake is the Podcasting to the Max newsletter. It will solve all the problems. No, I'm just kidding. It won't do that. But it will provide podcast production tips for you and some behind-the-scenes stories from the Wild Business Growth podcast that you can only get there. You can sign up at maxpodcasting.com/newsletter. And we can even talk about all the mistakes that we all make, because mistakes are an important part of business, obviously, as Paul says. Now, let's get to some more mistakes. So I know by this point you're realizing the mistake and accepting to come on this interview. So thanks again for dealing with it. But let's switch gears a little bit. Let's get to you as a person and even outside of work, how you stay inspired, how you stay creative. And so much of what you're saying keeps going back to simplicity, and you're talking about it within the business. But I'm curious, outside of work, is there anything you do kind of like at home or in your personal life that maintains that mantra of simplicity?
I'm banned from using the S word at home because I probably I have a very patient wife and three very patient kids who are sick to the teeth of me obsessing about it all the time. No, just kidding. I think myself, first of all, I like to swim in the sea, and it's freezing cold here now at the moment. And I was in the other day, and it was sleeting, but it gives you an electric shock to the brain on a regular basis, and I think that really helps. I've never been a fan of a lot of equipment or a lot of accessories or anything like that. You have people who go in swimming and they've got 4 bags of equipment to go down there, and where when we go down, you just hop straight in, hop straight out, and that's it. You're lucky if you get a towel. It's less is more. We all need a lot less, you know. I'm not materialistic. I'm trying to do this to really have a positive impact on the world, and to save people time, to give people some joy around the satisfaction of getting things done. I have an intention to do something very meaningful to the community. We deal with a lot of beautiful buildings, and I have an intention to do something very meaningful with people who do not have a roof over their head, the homeless communities in the world. And if we can make Snapfix super successful, there's going to be a big part of this will be giving back.
That's so great, and it just makes it that much more meaningful when you have that giving back aspect to it. I'm blown away. Did you say that even like in the winter you jump in the sea?
We're very fortunate where we live. We live a few blocks from the sea, and there's a very famous swimming place called a 40 foot. You're going to have to come over here sometime, Max, and check it out. And you can Google it. It's really famous. There is a James Joyce Martello Tower where he wrote Ulysses, is right there at that point. And people swim all year round. We have our own polar bear club, and people are in 5 a.m., 6 a.m. The same people arrive on the hour, every hour, right throughout the day. There'll be people in there at midnight tonight, and it's absolutely freezing outside.
Wow, I can only imagine the. How would you characterize the jolt that it gives you when you pop into freezing water like that?
It's an electric shock to the brain. It clears everything because I'm very intense at work. I'm very impatient at work. It's very stressful at times. It is incredibly stressful at times, and it's really hard. And when you do that, everything stops, and you just forget about everything. And for me, it separates the work day from the evening. And when I can come back home, then after that, I'm much more relaxed with my family and everything.
So how often do you do this?
About 4, sometimes 5 times a week.
That's amazing. So it's really it's a daily routine for you. That's incredible.
A lot of people do it 7 days a week. I'm in awe of those people. And then you've got the people in February, they do it for charity. On February the 1st, you stay in for 1 minute, and February the 2nd, you stay in for 2 minutes, and then all the way up until, 28, 29 days. And that's tough going. So my hat goes off to those people because I cannot do that.
Oh my God, I'm freezing thinking about it. Gonna need to just curl up, sit next to the fireplace, and read a book about something warm after this. But so that kind of refreshes or cleanses you in your transition from the workday to home life later in the day. How about in the morning? Is there anything you do to like get into the work mode or wake you up in the morning?
No, I'm actually a morning person. So the minute I get up, I usually just make a pot of coffee, and I'm sitting down within 10 minutes of waking up. That may not be one to be recommending to people. I hear a lot of people saying you need to do something for 30 minutes or 45 minutes for yourself every morning. I've heard it every time, and I believe it, but I just haven't. I'm not a practitioner. I'm best if I wake up at 6 a.m. I'm best at 6:10, just planning my day and getting focused.
Well, I think you should hop in freezing cold water for half an hour in the morning too. I mean, you're slacking there. I don't know if you're spending enough time there.
I'm not worthy. I'm just not worthy.
So speaking of cool and unique and unusual things, let's get to the unusual. So I won't let you say, the Polar Bear Club for any of this, but this is pet peeves, quirks, weird talents. So what's a weird talent, or some say party trick, that you have? Something that you're really good at, maybe just around the house, or a memory trick or something, but it has nothing to do with your business.
Oh, that is a very difficult question. Now you're stumping me.
It wasn't going to be easy. Nobody said it was going to be easy.
A party trick. I can tell a couple of jokes. I'm not going to tell any here because some of them might be not relevant to this conversation.
Well, okay. Well, I have to stop you there. So we are rated explicit, so there's no concerns about content. Is there a joke that you're willing to share, given that people know this is an explicit show?
I don't think so. Not the jokes I'm thinking of.
Okay.
We'll move on to the next question.
Okay, maybe you'll tell me offline, and then I'll
okay.
Use PSP to tell people about it. But okay, all right. So you're a good joke teller. You just have to believe it, though. What about pet peeves? Is there something that just really ticks you off? It's something rather minor in life, but it really just annoys you for some reason.
I've got a number of those. I hate people wasting time in the business setting. I think if you're giving a presentation for 10 minutes to 20 people, you have a responsibility. Whatever 10 minutes by 20 is, you have a responsibility to make that valuable to those people, and you should prepare for that. I hate people coming into meetings and just rambling, and you've just wasted 10 minutes for 20 people or whatever. So wasting time, don't get me started. Wasting resources, it's as simple. When I was growing up, you would just hate to be in someone's house and they would have the clothes dryer on when it's a beautiful day outside. That's wasting resources. That's wasting valuable, natural resources. People who don't recycle, that irks me. You see somebody putting a aluminum can into a trash can, instead of recycling it, or glass or whatever. So that would tick me off a little bit. So you get 3 peeves to counter me not telling a joke.
Perfect. You're making it extra valuable for us. And then quirks. What is something a little bit quirky about your personality? I won't let you say the simplicity aspect, but what is something a little bit unique to your personality that there's no shame in it? It's great. It's who you are.
Sometimes I can probably speak a little liberally and maybe not think things out before I just say it straight out. I'm prone to exaggeration. I mean, the joke that some people say is, I've told you a million times not to exaggerate. So I'm prone to that. So I could very often, when I say something to somebody, then I have to actually pull it back because they've actually thought I was being serious. This has happened 487 times, and they'd say 487. I said, of course I was exaggerating. It happened 6 times. So I'm probably a little bit prone to exaggeration in order to get my point across.
That's fantastic, and that explains this interview so much. Is that you're just known to blow things up so much. So thank you. Now, let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. Are you ready for it?
Sure.
All right, let's get wild. What is your favorite all-time restaurant or bar or pub in the East Village?
Oh, in the East Village, it's not there anymore. There was an insane place called the Village Idiot.
Now, this sounds like a joke.
It literally was. And I used to bring customers there, and it was a small, narrow bar. And when the owner, his name was Tommy, would feel offended by something, he would use the soft drinks dispenser thing and just spray everybody. So it was just, and I just love the energy of that guy. He was crazy. Hopefully he's still alive. I have no idea. But and if you are, best of luck to you. But that was kind of cool. That was very cool.
That is cool. Idiots all around. Absolutely love it. What you mentioned you're on 5 continents. I think actually, you could probably exaggerate up to 8 continents, and people would believe you. But yeah, I'm sure you've done some travel as part of your growing empire of Snapfix. What's a place that you didn't know too much about that totally surprised you and you absolutely loved visiting?
Easter Island. Myself and my friend Chris from Texas, we did a bit of research once on the remotest inhabited island on Earth. And we said we got to find it. We got to go there, and it turned out that it was Easter Island, and we hung out there for a couple of weeks, and we hung out in the hills and in the hills with some of the local guys, and just pitched our tent up there with them, and it was just extremely cool.
That is extremely cool, and that's where those giant heads are, right? That's what those giant heads are, whatever they're called, the Easter Island heads. Sorry, what's it called?
I believe it's spelled Maoi, Maui.
How would you characterize seeing those in person?
Just thinking about the engineering to create these and to stand them up in an island where you can stand at the top of the island and you're looking at the Pacific Ocean all the way around. It's just, it's frightening to think how they accomplished that with such engineering accuracy. I still can't get over it. I still can't understand it. And it wasn't a big population of people.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like that Stonehenge, the pyramids in Egypt, like those are all just mysterious but awesome engineering marvels.
Mind-blowing.
How long did it take you and your siblings to get ready for school when it's 12 kids getting ready for school?
Minutes, because we would typically try to sleep in late, and then somebody would scream the bus, and then you'd run out scrambling to the door, and then they would finish their sentence by saying "is red" or something, and the bus wouldn't be there at all. So you would just scramble, and sometimes you'd miss breakfast and just get out there. But the bus stopped literally outside the front gate of our house, which was cool.
That's an incredible image. I swear, your childhood is a movie. It goes back to my motorcycle running around, but that's just incredibly visual image. And then last one, I couldn't resist with this. How often do you get confused for Paul McCartney?
I met a guy in a local restaurant recently, and his name was Eddie Murphy. And because I asked the manager, and I what's your name? He said Eddie Murphy. I said I'm Paul McCarthy. He said, "Do you get the same heat that I get?" And I said, "Yeah." So the odd time, I just have to usually just say, "Listen, guys, you do not want to hear me sing." That's how I shut that down.
Wow. Well, Sir Paul, thank you 487 times for for coming on, for making the time today, for all you do, the awesome Snapfix story. Really, really enjoyed talking to you, and you have me itching to visit Ireland again. It's just a magical place, and just love what you're doing. So thanks so much for coming on. Where is the best place for people to check out, learn more about Snapfix, and if they want to connect with you online?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Max. You and your listeners, everybody's welcome to Ireland. Bring your swimming trunks.
Although you might force us to jump in the water when it's negative degrees Celsius.
It'll happen. It'll happen. And if anyone would like to reach out with us with any if we can help with any buildings, infrastructure, or equipment, we're on snapfix.com.
Perfect. And then last thing, final thoughts. It could be a joke that you might decide to tell. No pressure. It could be a song. No, it could be, quote, words to live by, whatever you want. Send us home here. The stage is yours.
Be kind. I've benefited from amazing kindness from a number of people as we've been building Snapfix, and they've been very generous with their time, with their advice, and their support. And it's something I always want to make sure I give back. And that's it. Just be kind.
Be kind, and please rewind if you want to hear Paul again. Thank you so much, Paul. Thanks a million for coming on the podcast, sharing your story, sharing the Snapfix, snappy fixiness that is just sensational. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to follow the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite podcast app, and tell a friend about the podcast, and then go to visit Paul in Ireland and dip into the freezing cold water as you try out Snapfix, but don't get your phone or tablet in the water. You can also find us on Good Pods, where there are fantastic podcasts and podcast recommendations. And for any help with podcast production, you can learn more at maxpodcasting.com and sign up for the Podcasting to the Max newsletter at maxpodcasting.com/newsletter. newsletter. Until next time, let your business run wild. Bring on the bongos!